The slow frog boil of all of us, myself included, is very real. And what I mean by that is, you know the story, the frog, you drop it in boiling water, it'll jump right out. But you drop it in regular water and slowly heat it up, it'll just stay there till it dies. Well, we get used to how scandalous this administration has been, how scandalous Democrats are. Joe Biden has been running a criminal enterprise for really, from what we can tell, the entirety of his political career. You're not allowed to use your office to enrich yourself, your brother, your dirtball cousin, your scumbag son. That's not how that works. These things are illegal. And now we have this new report from the House Judiciary Committee. Let's ask the chairman about it. Joining me now, the chairman of that Judiciary Committee, Congressman Goodwin from the state of Ohio, Congressman Jim Jordan. Okay, so what is this report? It's long. It's 292 pages, and it looks awfully bad for the sitting president.
Yeah, I mean, two things we think happen here. One, you have abuse of power from the Joe Biden, and that would be the crime. And then, of course, the other one is obstruction of justice. And the first one is relative to the millions of dollars the Biden family took in. And, you know, the fundamental question is, well, what were they doing for all that money? Millions of dollars coming from foreign entities, foreigners. What were they doing to get that money? And, of course, Devin Archer told us, not me saying it, not Jesse Kelly saying it, it's Devin Archer, Hunter Biden's business partner, saying they were selling access to the brand, to the big guy, Joe Biden, and that's why they were able to receive all this money. And then, of course, the second one is obstruction of justice. This is where the Biden White House, the Biden Justice Department denied us access to the Robert Hur tapes, where Robert Hur had interviewed Joe Biden in the classified documents investigation. This is where David Weiss didn't allow, the Justice Department didn't allow us to have David Weiss answer all the questions we asked him, where the Justice Department wouldn't allow us to interview Mr. Morgan, Mr. Daley, two attorneys who were involved in the Hunter Biden investigation. So those are the two conclusions we reach in the report, and we lay out all the facts and the stuff that we have talked about a lot over the last year.
Congressman, the selling access thing, and I understand there's a million shell corporations, as you pointed out, and there have been a lot of people trying to cover up what it is. But have we ever figured out any specifics on what exactly Joe Biden was selling for that access? You know, access to Jim Jordan, if you were corrupt, which you're not, but access to Jim Jordan would be nice, but getting to meet you at a cocktail party doesn't line my bank account. You have to do something. You have to find a way to funnel taxpayer money to my bank account in some way, for lack of a better way to put it. Do we think that's what he did?
Well, we know he did. We know he took specific actions relative to Burisma. I mean, I always thought this was the best example and the most compelling evidence we had. Hunter Biden gets put on the board of Burisma. Fact number two, Hunter Biden's not qualified to be on the board. He said so himself in an ABC interview. Fact number three, the CEO of this Ukrainian energy company asked Hunter Biden, hey, we're under a lot of pressure from the prosecutor. Can you weigh in with D.C.? Now, Devin Archer, when he testified at one point in his deposition, he said, after Hunter Biden gets that request, Hunter Biden calls his dad. And then another part of his deposition, he said, Devin Archer said Hunter Biden called D.C. What we do know is 5 days after that call happens, whether it's to D.C. or to Joe Biden when he's vice president, 5 days later, Joe Biden goes to Ukraine and tells the Ukrainian government, unless you fire the very prosecutor applying the pressure to the Burisma, to the Ukrainian energy company that Hunter Biden sits on the board of, unless you deal with this prosecutor and fire him, you're not getting $1 billion of American taxpayer money. So Joe Biden leveraged our tax money to get an outcome that benefited the company his son was sitting on the board of, the same company his son was not qualified to be on the board of. So that is the best example of where you see this abuse of power taking place.
You know, it's amazing. I've talked about this story a million times. Even I wasn't aware of the timeline. It was 5 days afterwards. Gosh, what a bunch of dirtballs. All right, let's go to obstruction of justice, because this is something that's probably honestly a bigger deal. $1 billion is not pocket change, but if we have a Justice Department, a DOJ that has been corrupted by Democrats to work on their behalf, that is a very big deal. That's nation-ending stuff. How deep do we think this rabbit hole goes?
Well, my big concern was, I'll use the example of Robert Hur's investigation into the classified documents. You know, it's supposed to be equal treatment under the law in our great country. Well, on one hand, we have President Trump, who was charged in Florida. Now, Judge Cannon has made some decisions down there that I think are good, and that case is basically on hold now. But President Trump was charged for mishandling classified information, and then, of course, had his home raided by Jack Smith, for goodness sake. And then you have the situation of Joe Biden, where on page 1 of Mr. Hur's report, he says Joe Biden knowingly kept classified information, Joe Biden knowingly shared classified information, and he shared it with someone who wasn't allowed to get it, someone who didn't have a clearance, namely his ghostwriter. Then on page 231 of the report, Special Counsel Hur points out why Joe Biden did it. He said Joe Biden had strong motivations for ignoring classified procedures because he was writing a book for which he got paid $8 million in an advance. So we have motive, $8 million motive. We have the elements of the crime, but he doesn't get charged because Robert Hur says, oh, Joe Biden's a forgetful old man who's going to be sympathetic to a jury. Okay, if that's your conclusion, but we'd like all the evidence, because what we see is this what appears to be a double standard, President Trump getting charged and Joe Biden not. So we asked for the tapes, the audio tapes, which we're entitled to get in an impeachment inquiry that the House has voted to enter. And they wouldn't give us to us. The White House and Merrick Garland's Justice Department all said, no, you're not getting that information. So that, to me, that's one of the key obstruction items that we lay out in the 290-some page report.
Well, what do you do with this information from here? Obviously, it's a big deal if the president's corrupt. I want him to be charged and everything else. At the same time, it's the end of August. The election's 15 minutes away. I'm sure you saw at least bits and pieces of Joe Biden last night, who definitely looks like he's on the back nine. What do you even bother with any of this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, look, the House of Representatives, under our Constitution, we took a formal vote to enter an impeachment inquiry phase of oversight, one of our constitutional duties. We felt, as the Judiciary Committee, the Oversight Committee, the Ways and Means Committee, the three committees who were charged with leading this investigation, we felt we should put together a report and present that to the House of Representatives. What happens next is up to the full House. You're right. We're 77 days away from what I think is just a critical election, one of those moments of significance in our country's history, which direction we're going to go. And the Democrats have already decided that Joe Biden is, they've kicked him to the curb and he's no longer part of the ticket. So I understand all that, but we still felt it's important for the country to know what really happened, to see the results of our investigation, and to present that to the House. And what the House does is now up to the House of Representatives.
All right, I can't let you go without asking about the DNC Freak Show that is in Chicago this week. I did see, my producer did some math. They mentioned Trump's name 147 times last night. Hardly brought up things like the border, inflation, crime, but Donald Trump was center stage. These people don't actually run on anything, do they?
No, it's all about attacking President Trump and frankly saying crazy things. I mean, it's like I told a group the other day, not all Democrats are crazy, but the left that runs their party is. I mean, it's just like, you got to be kidding. I mean, here's the good thing though. We get to, this doesn't happen all that often in American politics, where you have back-to-back administrations who are now running for president of the United States. We had 4 years of Trump, 4 years of Biden-Harris. Harris is running against President Trump. Which term was better? I mean, I tell people all the time, we went from a secure border to no border, safe streets, record crime, $2 gas, $4 gas, stable prices, record inflation. They just made the person who voted voted tie-breaking vote for the Inflation Reduction Act that caused all the inflation. They just made her the nominee. The borders they just made her the nominee. So I think we got a clear choice here that the country will see. And that'll start to be clear, I think, when we have the debates, when JD squares off against Tim Walz and when President Trump squares off against Vice President Harris.
Yeah, I look forward to those. Congressman, thank you, sir. As always, I appreciate you. I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.